Morning, welcome to a video with the Walk with Coffee Hill. Today I'm in Sheffield and I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go around and talk about the music scene here. I was a promoter for some time and enjoyed it, but unfortunately we're seeing a lot of venues shut down now and we're losing some great places. But I've done a little bit of research. I know I'm going to miss some stuff, but I've found some interesting stuff out about Sheffield as well, what I didn't know up until these last week or so. So is Sheffield the best music city in the UK? I mean, it's home to Tramlines Festival. It's home to bands all the way stretching back to the 60s, from Joe Cocker to Human League to ABC to Def Leppard to Pulp to Arctic Monkeys, Bring Me the Horizon, Self-Esteem, and so many more. And you know, it's had some fantastic venues. I am from Sheffield myself. I live here, I grew up here, and obviously I'm probably biased about it, but I do think Sheffield is the best music city in the UK. So I missed quite a few bands out there as well. I did miss out Reverend and the Makers, I did miss out Long Pigs, obviously Richard Hawley. I did miss out Milburn, Little Monte, Toddler T, the Harrisons. All have been a huge credit to the city, so all deserve that mention in there. Miloko's another one. I could probably go on forever. So while that just looks like a co-op, this used to be the Yazina Ballroom. And the Yazina Ballroom in 1963, this is where the Beatles played. It's Gleedless, White Lane. And also I've just found out that Brian Epstein's mum were from Sheffield as well. Interesting fact of the day. So here you've got BBC Radio Sheffield. It was a great introduction show. I do have to mention that obviously my time working in music, and from now Ian Hodgson and Kristen Carlisle have done a great job supporting local Sheffield music. I know there are others, but they're the two main ones, so I just want to give them both a praise. They've both given me a lot of help in the past as well, but they've given Sheffield music, well, South Yorkshire music, a lot of help. And just down from Radio Sheffield you've got Red Tape Studios. Red Tape Studios has helped a lot of young people get into music careers, so it's definitely worth mentioning and featuring in there. So yeah, well done Red Tape Studios. There's been a lot of good people who's worked in there too. Here you've got the Leadmill, opened in 1980, and now it's going to shut on the 28th of June 2025, which is such a shame. Leadmill's been home to so much great music from Sheffield, the likes of Pulp, Arctic Monkeys, Bring Me the Horizon, etc. But not just that, it's had bands from all over the world, you know, Kings of Leon, The Strokes, then obviously big massive UK bands like Coldplay and Muse. So the Leadmill has played a huge part in the Sheffield music scene, but it's also played a big part in a stepping stone for a lot of other bands outside of Sheffield. I've seen Catfish and the Bottlemen and Passenger play here on their way up, which both were really good. And then there's some great work what gets done by the staff here. And yeah, I've been lucky enough to, you know, be at some great gigs, get some supports for the bands I've been managing at the time and stuff. The most memorable one were probably when a band I managed supported The Enemy at Tramlines. So I've got to thank people like Ben Hartley and Ian, I can't remember his surname, sorry, for all the support they've given Sheffield bands in the past. So when I were doing the filming outside the Leadmill, I forgot to put in that Oasis also played there on the way up, which I can't believe I missed that out, because that's not just really well known. Oasis were one of my favourite ever bands as well, especially like in the 90s. So this one really breaks my heart. This is the Boardwalk, shut down some time ago now. Used to be Black Swan and Mucky Duck. The Clash played their first gig supporting the Sex Pistols here. You've had bands like Bring Me the Horizon and Arctic Monkeys play here, and then also most local bands across many generations played here as well. I want to give a big shout out to Jules Vernon, who is a legend of the Sheffield music scene, who's no longer with us, but helped so many young bands get a footing within this venue and get them up and running. And Jules did a lot for myself as well, so it's quite an emotional one, this one for me. So here you've got the Odeon Cinema, but between the 70s and 80s this used to be called Fiesta, and this had bands such as the Beach Boys, Stevie Wonder, Jackson 5 all play here. I only found that out recently too, so that's how much I've been studying, you know. And still standing in Sheffield, you've got the O2 Academy. It opened in 2009 but shut in 2023 due to issues with roof. Obviously it's had a lot of big bands play here, because O2 Academies always do, but it's an ugly building, innit? Weren't my favourite either. What I'll say though, I've seen some cracking gigs in there. Little Man Tate, Milburn, Pigeon Detectives, and whilst that weren't my favourite venue in Sheffield, it did put some cracking gigs on. So this is the original site for the main stage for what was Tramlines Festival when it started in 2009, when it was a free festival before it moved to Hillsborough Park. When you look round here and you look across it, it's amazing how small the area actually is, and you can see why they moved to Hillsborough Park. So on that first Tramlines Festival in 2009, obviously it used to spread out between like Division Street, West Street and further afield that, but on the Dev Green where I've just showed you, Reverend and the Makers headline there, that festival also featured Little Boots, Pixie Lott, Example and many other great bands. Here you've got the Sheffield Forum, used to put a few gigs on, I don't know if it still does, but most notable I think Old J played here. I can't think of any off the top of my head other big bands, so if anybody knows of them, let me know. I saw a band called The Milk, what were pretty cool, but they didn't really go on to be as big as I think they expected to be. So on the Sheffield Forum as well, it's just come to me, The Plug used to put some gigs on at the Sheffield Forum, and they had Snow Patrol and Ed Sheeran both play there too. I didn't go to those gigs, I wish I had. You've got Frog and Parrot, that's had some great bands on. It gets rammed during most gigs, but Tramlines, it's ridiculous. On the Fringe Festival side of it, it is absolutely ridiculous how busy it gets in there. I've actually seen Catfish and the Bottlemen in there, amongst other great bands. So I've come in Frog and Parrot, got my coffee, $2.99, looking forward to this and just sitting down and chilling out for 20 minutes. This is a really trendy place, really cool, a really big part of the Sheffield music scene. Good toilets in Frog and Parrot though, very funky. And some great memories of Tramlines there too. So I've come back out to film some more of this video now. Obviously with Frog and Parrot, you know, it played a big part in the Tramlines Fringe Festival and it played a big part in helping a lot of bands. A couple of people to mention there, Aaron Proctor put a lot of gigs on here and helped a lot of bands. Carl Maloney as well, another one what put quite a lot of stuff on here. And also Ben and Danny, that's Ben Stubbs and Danny Clare. They've now got a couple of bars in Sheffield and doing really well, and best of luck to them, but they put some really good bands on, including that Catfish and the Bottlemen gig. So this great building here used to be Soho, which was great for Monday night music. Put some great bands on, 1975's Catfish and the Bottlemen, amongst many more. Matt Cottrell did a great job there. It's got a coffee shop round the corner now, which you should really check out. It's a really cool coffee shop. If I get time, I'll give it a go. Talking of Tramlines Fringe, this place used to be called The Olive, and I used to put little acoustic gigs on there during Tramlines Fringe, and this used to get rammed as well. It was such a good atmosphere, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. Great owners too. And there you have the Bungalow and Bears, which has also put some really good bands on, a bit more on the electronic side. And here you've got Sheffield City Hall, great building. It's a great place to watch live music, comedy and all that sort of stuff in here. So if you've never been in here, I highly recommend that you do come and check it out. So there you've got the Hubs. In 2002 it was set up as the National Popular Centre of Music. It's now a student union. And in 2011 it got voted the country's ugliest building. There's a car park round corner which is even uglier than this, I assure you. There you've got the showroom, which is home to the Sensora Festival, which is like a music industry festival, which I might try and get to this year. I've not been for a few years. You've got the Rutland Arms. Used to have a room upstairs where I used to put a few gigs on as well, acoustic gigs. I think they still do a little bit of music and it's still opening and functioning, so that's good. And here you've got the Sydney and Matilda. Great venue this, run by a top guy, Paul Tufty. Been around for ages around Sheffield music scene. I know him from Grapes, and then he had Rocking Chair, and now he's got Sydney Matilda. So I recommend you come and check gigs out here. So there we've got the Music Junkie, which is a record shop, but also upstairs there's a Record Junkie, which is also known as a music venue too. It's good that these businesses are doubling up to make sure they can survive, and that plays its part in the Sheffield music scene too, just like all the other venues that are open, and giving young bands a platform to, you know, perform. So here you have Network. It's still a functioning music venue, which is good. It used to be called Plug when it was Plug. Adele and Scott Bailey had it and brought so many great bands to it, including Patti Smith and The Prodigy, Arctic Monkeys and many more. So it's got some good history in there. They had 2 rooms and some great gigs in there. Another one, Catfish and the Bottommen, played as well. So over there you've got the Brewski. That used to be the Op, and that used to put quite a few music gigs on. I can remember doing some myself down there. It was pretty cool at the time. It weren't the greatest sound because of the glass building, but it was alright for what it was. And behind me we've got what used to be the Bowery. So there's Cactus Jack's. That used to be the Bowery. And upstairs, Matt Elders, drummer from the Arctic Monkeys, used to have a little vintage shop up there, which were really cool. And that put some half decent bands on, especially sort of bands on their way up, the really good local bands as well. And it's a shame to see this look like this, rare and racy. It were a great little record shop back in the day, but obviously couldn't afford to stay open, so we've lost that, and we've lost Jack's Records as well. And as we continue to walk down Division Street, this is the Green Room, which is pretty cool. It's still open, helps a lot of up and coming bands, like I said before. A little bit like West Street Live, it's still open, does a lot of open mic and stuff like that as well. So if you've got a chance to come in here, do so. So you've got the Washington, very busy at a weekend. Puts quite a few gigs on. I think Rob Hurst does some stuff down here. Another great guy from Sheffield who's very heavily involved in the Sheffield music scene. So I put my first ever gig on in Sheffield in here back in 2008, where Little Comets played, and I know some great local bands. And now look at it, it's not, I don't even know what it is anymore. It were a church, after it were a nightclub. We're called DQ. I loved the place as well. But times change, unfortunately. So there you've got the Corporation nightclub, which is home to some live music, which is normally on the heavier side. The likes of Slash, Lamb of God, Bring the Horizon. Somebody's sound checking in there now as well. So here's where Rocking Chair used to be, a great little venue. I used to love putting some gigs on in there. The room were about 8200 cap, and it had such a great vibe as well to it. Got a great sound. Unfortunately, it had to get knocked down. Tufty's moved on to Sydney and Matilda, which I filmed earlier. So not all's lost, but it was a great music venue. Some great memories in there. And up here, we used to have the Casbah, which were another great music venue and nightclub. That got, you know, that shut some years ago, but it were a great place. Some good memories in there. That were Henry's. So by my reckoning, Casbah was somewhere about here. So Ben Stubbs and Danny Clare, who I mentioned about putting some gigs on at Fog and Parrot, are opening this place here. They've got another bar down on Aberdale Road. I think it's Aberdale Road, but they're opening this, and it's a big thing for them. I know this is about Sheffield music scene, but these two lads put a lot into Sheffield music scene, so come and give them some support when it's open. I think if you spoke to many bands across the UK, even across the world, you know, Sheffield are all a big part in their art for some of the experiences they've had here, because it's a great city, absolutely fantastic city, and the music side of it is amazing, and there's no other words for it. It is absolutely amazing. The venues, the bands, everything. And I know we're losing some of that, but the history cannot be beat. So I'm led to believe this were the old Limit nightclub building. The Limit nightclub had bands like U2 play there, the Specials, but also was a big stepping stone for local bands like Human League and Def Leppard. If I'm wrong, please correct me. They've got Maida Vale. They used to put a few unsigned bands on. Don't know if they still do, but they used to. Here's great. They stopped doing music about 10 years ago, but the week before Arctic Monkeys blew up, they've got a small room upstairs which is about 60 cap. People were paying like 200 quid a ticket for that gig. He's also done an interview inside the pub with the Killers when they played Sheffield Arena, And it's also had bands like Plan B and Bring Me the Horizon play, and many, many more. And then you've got Trippett's Wine Bar here, who's had a bit more on the sort of jazz side of music and stuff like that, but it still plays its part in the Sheffield music scene. And there you've got the Shakespeare as well, another great music venue. Still puts gigs on today. Room upstairs, a bit more of a traditional pub, which is always good. We want these traditional pubs. It's probably more known for more folky stuff and that, but plenty of indie bands and that have played there too. Great venue really, and glad to see it still standing. There you have Fagans as well. They do put some bands and that on there, but I'll have to Google the history. Next to it is Wizard Guitars. So right here you've got West Street Live. I think it still puts some bands on Fruit Week, but I'm not entirely sure. I always knew it for Matt Hume, really sound guy, putting quite a lot of gigs on here, and he put a lot of effort in to help young bands get a foot on the ladder in the Sheffield music scene. So I know some people are going to mention, oh, I missed this art and I missed that art, but mainly I've just covered sort of the live music side. I know I've missed some venues out what put live music on. I know I've missed some of the history out. I know I haven't really covered anything what the DJs do, what makes Sheffield music even greater than I've already spoke about. But it was just impossible to cover everything with, like, it takes a lot of research. Maybe one day I'll go back and, you know, cover absolutely everything, but at the moment I'm going to miss some things out. Right there you've got Harrison's Bar, which used to put a few gigs on as well. These are just off West Street, Bath Hotel and Harrison's Bar. I don't know if it's still open though, to be honest. I've never actually been in it, but I know it did put some gigs on. There you've got the Wick at Both Ends. I used to do a little bit of music, mainly very chilled music like, and that's had a few DJs on and stuff in there. I don't know what it does now, but it's got a cool new looking sign. There you have the Bath Hotel, which I know puts some music on from time to time. I know it's involved with Tramlines Fringe as well, so I thought it was worth a mention. So when I was younger, I did some little bit of a work experience with one of the guys from Art of ABC, and I think his little studio were at the top there. I wrote to hundreds and hundreds of people, and he was the only one to get back to me, so it was nice to spend the day and learn some things. I don't think I learnt much, but I think that was more on me than him. Because to be fair, a lot of time people have to tell me things about 100 times before they sink in. So here you've got the Harley, which is now unfortunately shut down. Notable bands what played here: Arctic Monkeys, Royal Blood, the XX. Obviously Arctic Monkeys played a lot of these venues what are going to be included today, so obviously you'll hear them mentioned a lot during this video. So here you've got the University of Sheffield, which has the Octagon venue and also the Foundry. It also, in this little bar one area, used to have a venue called the Park. It only held about 50 people, and I once saw Feeder in there supported by Idlewild. I think it was about £2 that gig to get in. That's no longer there now, unfortunately, but luckily the Octagon and the Foundry are, and they're both great venues. And here you have the Octagon, but it's my first ever gig in here. Brief support act with Feeder and a band called Number One Club. Great gig. And I've seen some great gigs in here. Super Furry Animals, saw Foo Fighters in here as well, but they were rubbish. Whilst in the Foundry, last year I went to watch Newton Faulkner. It's changed that venue now a little bit, but in the I think one of my first gigs I went to see in there was the Stereophonics, and they were supported by a band called, I think they was called The Audience, and the singer was no other than Sophie Ellis-Bextor. So yeah, I'm aware that I've not been everywhere, so one of the places obviously I can mention is the Broadfield. I've not been down on, I think it's Aberdale Road, and the Broadfield played quite a big part in the pathway of Def Leppard, I believe, and also had Bruce Dickinson play there as well. I didn't realise he was only born in Worksop until the other day as well. There you have the Nottingham House. So this is up in the student area of Broomhill, and it puts a lot of, he did put quite a few unsigned gigs on. I can see on the sign out of the corner of my eye there's an open mic night here still, so it's good that it's helping to continue to be a platform for up and coming musicians. So here you've got Record Collector, which have played a big part in the Sheffield music scene. This has been here for some years. It's a great little shop, so it's great to see it still open. Looks great in here as well. What a great record store. So I know I missed some really good music venues out in Sheffield. The Greystones is one what's come to the top of my head here, and I do apologise for not going down and filming that. But obviously time's always key in everything, and I do recommend if you get the opportunity to go to the Greystones, please do. It's a great venue. This has been a video, walk with Coffin Hill, about the Sheffield music scene to an extent. Obviously I didn't cover everything and everywhere, but I give it a go, and thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it.